Today I'm joined by Hugh Ross. From the new full cast audiobook of Harry Potter, to the restored director's cut of Nightbreed, to classic series like Lovejoy and Boon, his career runs through some of the most recognisable worlds in film and TV. In this conversation, we're getting into the reality behind these roles. What's it like stepping into something as huge as Harry Potter? What's it like being part of the Nightbreed universe that found its audience years later? And so much more. Book that is just that is very new.
Yep.
How did you get involved in the Harry Potter audiobook?
I actually did the voice on the promo for it long before they released the actual recording, the audible recording, and then they came and we wondered whether I'd be cast in it or not, and then my agent kind of went back and forth, and then suddenly they said, "Would I like to be Ollivander?" And of course, I said, "Yes, I'd love to be." So that's what happened with it.
So Garrick Ollivander, there's quite a lineage there, and was it a character, a series that you were interested in beforehand?
I think I'd read one of the books. No, I've not been a passionate fan, but of course, when I was asked to do it, I did my research, and I was very, of course, overwhelmed slightly by John Hurt, who being so wonderful as Ollivander. But no, I was excited to do it and just plunged in really, and it's been very nice. There's been nice feedback from it and everything, so it's great.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for Harry Potter as well, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because were you aware of the new TV series starting when you signed up for the project, that it was going to be a whole new generation of fans connecting to it through that as well?
Yes. I was aware of it, and I'm secretly hoping I might be in that one too. But no, that hasn't happened.
And I imagine when you know that you're in a project that's going to have lots of ears or lots of eyes on it, do you approach, if it's like if it's a character that you that is known, like you say, has been played by other people, do you approach the rhythm and the tone and the pacing of how you perform that character, or do you look at it as a completely new?
No, I don't think that. I was trying to explain this to somebody recently about audio, is that you get a script, and I'm a great believer in kind of how your instinct responds to a script, and and whatever you do comes out of your head as you it's a kind of immediate thing. And the nice thing about radio is that there's not a lot of talk about it. You just have to kind of use your imagination. And I mean, I often think this, I'm with Anthony Hopkins on this, I just think you have to, it's about your imagination engaging with the ideas on the page and how it comes. I mean, it's a bit like, I always say the kids are so wonderful as actors because they just automatically respond to something like, be frightened, and they know how to be frightened. And radio's great like that. Of course, you don't have to learn the lines, but there's a kind of spontaneity about it and about the freedom of your imagination that you just kind of leap into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think I heard Kate Winslet saying something similar about her film that she made recently, and why she said, "I'm going to have the children all use their real names, and they can just pretend that they're playing, and it'll just feel so real." And trying to bring that kind of feel to a role as an adult is obviously going to be a little bit more challenging, but it's probably a good mindset to have, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm always saying to young actors that they're called, what we do in the theatre are called plays, and they invite you to play and kind of just let your imagination fly, and that's what's fun about it.
Yeah. That's sometimes these kind of just sort of clarifying things for people is a good way of making it, taking that pressure off and enjoying what you're doing. And when you're approaching something, just to kind of still lean on the Harry Potter side of things, when you're approaching something like that sort of project, do you ever think, is it overwhelming sometimes to think of a fan base? I know you're involved in quite a few fan bases. There's a Nightbreed fan base. There's a Harry Potter fan base that is already built in, whether it's from a book or whether it's from another film or something like that.
I think that it's always rather a weird surprise what has actually resonated with people. And I've just been, I think I told you, to this event in Ireland, and some of the people came. They're always it's kind of a mixture of being surprising and rather touching in some ways. That you think, I thought I was doing it tonight, and then somebody comes along and said, "I'd come to see because I just think that scene in Bronson is amazing." And we think, "Look at that scene in Bronson, my goodness me!" Then somebody said, "Oh, Train Spotting," and I mean, it's a little scene in Train Spotting, but even so, it seems to have some sort of impact.
Oh, massively, yeah.
Yeah, so it's surprising and exciting and very gratifying.
Yeah, those. It's amazing how many. I mean, I guess it isn't amazing because that's often how films get made. But there are these kind of books like Train Spotting that were, had an audience that people had reread lots and lots of times. Clive Barker, obviously, books, his stock and trade, and the theatre, of course. But and Harry Potter and all those things. It must be an interesting thing to have almost like historical tomes of something that you're going to act.
Yeah. No, it is exactly.
And would you say, because I was thinking about that as well, like the differences of taking, when it's a completely new project written for the screen, is there a preference there? Or, for example, we talk about Bronson based on real people. I've read that book as well. I think I read that when I was on a plane once, and I was really interested in the Australian crime world. And then I picked up the Bronson book and I read about him as well. And I think I must have just been in a W.H. Smith's where there was a lot of gangster books. But do you have a preference? A real person, a literary, like historic, something from a book, or a brand new concept just for the screen? Do you have any preference?
No, I don't think I have a preference. I mean, basically, is it a good part? I mean, you sort of think to yourself, can I do something with this? The funny thing about Bronson was that my agent sent me the thing saying the casting director wanted somebody who was a cross between Noel Coward and an East End gangster. And I thought, where do you begin with that? So I just thought, you just plunge in and hope for the best. And it was a very extraordinary casting process because Nicholas Winding Refn was quite an individual. He's rather fantastic in a way. But I had to go to Nottingham where he was doing something else. We went on a mad car ride, and he chatted away, kind of. But one of the things, sorry, I've been off and on now, but one of the things he said was, "You have the most amazing eyes. They're like Henry Klein. Once Upon a Time in the West. Have you seen that? And those blue eyes and blah 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 blah. Yak yak yak, chat chat chat. You know, where's this leading?" And then suddenly he says, "Excuse me," and he rings the casting director and says, "Yeah, I want him to play the part." That was it, really. But yeah, it's all kind of surprise.
Oh, certainly. Can I just pause for 1 second? I feel like I'm losing your audio a little bit.
Oh dear.
There we go. Okay. So, without being completely obvious, I was thinking it'd be nice to ask you a couple of Nightbreed related questions. I know you've just had a Nightbreed weekend, essentially, over in Belfast, but it really has grown in reputation over time. People's love of it seems to have grown. Is that something that you expected when you when you signed on that this was going to be something that had legs that lasted so long in people's hearts?
Running a theatre company, and we lived quite near one another in Islington. So I met him somewhere socially, and then we got to know each other. And I was doing various things in the theatre, and one of the things I was doing was playing Mother Goose in Colchester. And Mother Goose had always been a great ambition of mine, because I was, as a child in Glasgow, a huge fan of Sandy Baxter, who was the definitive Mother Goose. And so having been asked to play it years ago now, but anyway, I did. And of course, lots of repartee with the audience and all that kind of stuff, which was what I think gave Clive the idea of casting as Narcisse in the film. And so I was offered it and accepted it, and it turned out to be great fun. And it was a difficult situation because he'd done Hellraiser 1 and Hellraiser 2, huge successes. And Morgan Creek, this big American company, came and offered him the money to make Nightbreed from his novel Cabal. And they were, I think they were tricky, and they kept kind of wanting things to be different and so on and so forth. And so we made the movie and made lots of friends, and it was quite a trial because you've seen the makeup's very elaborate. And I used to get picked up. I lived then in Victoria, in London, at something like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then pitched up to find which fellow did the makeup, the Gilgit. And it was great fun. And in fact, the makeup artist was just starting out, but he's now become a sort of legendary makeup person called Neil Bulletin. It was great. Anyway, I would arrive and I'd go to sleep and he'd do the makeup, blah, 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 and we make the film. Anyway, Clive said, it's going to be huge. You must come to LA for the launch. And I couldn't. I was doing something else after this. Meanwhile, Morgan Creek decided that they did various test screenings of the film, and the character had gone down really well, which was fantastic. So then there was talk of Nightbreed 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And so I thought, oh, my life's not going to be playing Narcisse. However, then what happened was that they had, I was at that point, tell me if this is too long a story. So I'm just going on a bit.
No, not at all. Not at all. Go ahead.
So I was then at the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford, and my agent called said, listen, they want to do some enhancement shots of Nightbreed and change a few things. So they want to book you on 3 consecutive Sundays. So I would do the shows in Stratford, and the car would come pick me up at the station on a Saturday night and pick me up for somewhere near Pinewood, and we would film on the 3 Sundays. And in the reshoots or the enhancement shoot, Narcisse, the character I was playing, was in the original version. He was beheaded, and in the enhancement shoot, he lived because presumably he had to last for the extra sequels. And so that's what happened. We filmed it, and then they put it. So that's what happened. We filmed it, and then they put in the extra scenes, blah blah blah, and it opened and bombed big time. It was just it did marketing it badly, blah 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 blah. So then that was that, and I thought, well, we'll move on, forget about that. And then I can't remember how long ago now, 10 or 15 years ago, this great guy, Russell Charrington, got in touch and said they want to do something called the Cabal. They found some extra footage. They want to make something called the Cabal Cat, which they did. And then we went to various launches of that around the country, and fans kept popping out and popping out, and more fans kept popping out. And then finally, after that, there was the director's cut, which was actually sold for the first time in Belfast, which was great. In fact, lots of stuff has been restored, which they found, and the narrative is much clearer. But they've gone back to the original ending for last season. The sequels were going to happen, and I get beheaded. So there we are.
Well, what's a surprise for you when you sit down to watch the film?
But I mean, I remember the whole thing. It's a very weird business because, of course, having a head cast is not the most pleasant thing in the world. But I remember standing there with my head in my hands. It was very strange.
Yeah. Oh my word.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's such a distinct world as well, isn't it? So the building, the design, the costumes, the makeup, there's no almost it has to succeed, a film like that, doesn't it? Because of the time investment and also the past success of the Hellraiser films. I think maybe, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, it feels like it was a little bit ahead of its time in the sense of mutants and things like that were seen in X-Men in the late 90s, and all of a sudden everybody was obsessed with X-Men style mutations and characters who were, and it just became a thing that everybody talked about. But maybe when it was Nightbreed, people were like, what is this? And I do kind of feel like if somebody was asking me to describe it, and I don't know how you describe it, somebody who hadn't seen it, I always think it's kind of like an S&M X-Men.
Yeah. So that's great. I think that's fine. Yes, I think it probably is. It's also quite interesting because, it turns the notion of authority and the people in the Midian, where the Nightbreed live, are all former bad people, and the authority figures on the set who are chasing them are all doubly corrupt. And
Yes.
and I thought watching it the other night that, I mean, Charles Hayde, who plays the chief police officer in it, was like one of those rather frightening Republicans that we have into COVID at the moment, who are kind of conducting the war in Iran. Yeah, so it's interesting because the people that get destroyed up there, trying to get rid of the breed, are actually much more evil than the actual people living underground.
Yeah, and like I think the casting of that was very smart as well. You had quite a lot of known, like, for example, perfect example of Charles Hayde, where I remember him from things like Hill Street Blues, and yet it's kind of switched in terms of the the intentions, at least, of those characters rather than the roles.
So that's what happened. We filmed it, and then we put in the extra scenes, blah blah blah, and it opened and bombed big time. It was just, it did marketing it badly, blah 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 blah. So then that was that, and I thought, well, we'll move on, forget about that. And then I can't remember how long ago now, 10 or 15 years ago, this great guy, Russell Charrington, got in touch and said they want to do something called the Cabal. They found some extra footage. They want to make something called the Cabal Cut, which they did. And then we went to various launches of that around the country, and fans kept popping out and popping out, and more fans kept popping out. And then finally, after that, there was the director's cut, which was actually sold for the first time in Belfast, which was great. In fact, lots of stuff has been restored, which they found, and the narrative is much clearer. But they've gone back to the original ending for last season. The sequels were going to happen, and I get beheaded. So there we are.
Well, what's a surprise for you when you sit down to watch the film?
But I mean, I remember the whole thing. It's a very weird business because, of course, having a head cast is not the most pleasant thing in the world. But I remember standing there with my head in my hands. It was very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's such a distinct world as well, isn't it? So the building, the design, the costumes, the makeup, there's no almost it has to succeed a film like that, doesn't it? Because of the time investment and also the past success of the Hellraiser films. I think maybe, and I don't know if you'd agree with this. It feels like it was a little bit ahead of its time in the sense of mutants and things like that were seen in X-Men in the late 90s, and all of a sudden everybody was obsessed with X-Men style mutations and characters and it just became a thing that everybody talked about. But maybe when it was Nightbreed, people were like, "What is this?" And I do kind of feel like if somebody was asking me to describe it, and I don't know how you describe it, it's somebody who hadn't seen it, I always think it's kind of like an S&M X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I think that's fine. Yes, I think it probably is. It's also quite interesting because it turns the notion of authority and the people in the Midian where the Nightbreed live are all former bad people, and the authority figures on the set who are chasing them are all doubly corrupt. And I thought watching it the other night that Charles Hayde, who plays the chief police officer in it, was like one of those rather frightening Republicans that we have into COVID at the moment, who are kind of conducting the war in Iran. Yeah, so it's interesting because the people that get destroyed up there, trying to get rid of the breed, are actually much more evil than the actual people living underground.
Yeah, and like I think the casting of that was very smart as well. You had quite a lot of known, like for example, perfect example of Charles Hayde, where I remember him from things like Hill Street Blues and yet it's kind of switched in terms of the intentions at least of those characters rather than the roles. I sorry, go ahead.
I meant to look him up actually. I'm not sure what's happened to him. Is he still around?
I think so. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's still around. I don't know if he's still acting. I think the last thing I was sort of mid 2000s because I was a massive fan of Third Watch. That there was an NYPD Blue, and I remember him popping up in those. Basically, Stephen Bochco things. He would, pop up in because of the Hill Street Blues, link, and that was one of the things that I really loved as he was Renko in that, and I think he must have done hundreds of episodes of that. So maybe he's retired on his Hill Street Blues money. I don't know.
We never retire. No.
Yeah. No. True.
Not for us, we're fine.
Yeah. And I guess when we're talking about that cast and we dig into that cast, one of the most unusual and memorable characters when watching it back is always David Cronenberg to see someone who is known for some of the most unsettling films to pop up, and every time he pops up in an acting role, whether it's in Jason X or in this, my eyes are always.
So that's what happened. We filmed it, and then we put in the extra scenes, blah blah blah, and it opened and bombed big time. It was just it did marketing it badly, blah 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 blah. So then that was that, and I thought, well, we'll move on, forget about that, and then I can't remember how long ago now, 10 or 15 years ago, this great guy, Russell Charrington, got in touch and said they want to do something called the Cabal. They found some extra footage. They want to make something called the Cabal Cut, which they did. And then we went to various launches of that around the country. And fans kept popping out, and more fans kept popping out. And then finally, after that, there was the director's cut, which was actually sold for the first time in Belfast, which was great. In fact, lots of stuff has been restored, which they've found, and the narrative is much clearer. But they've gone back to the original ending for last season. The sequels weren't going to happen, and I get beheaded. So there we are.
Well, what a surprise for you when you sit down to watch the film.
But I mean, I remember the whole thing. It's a very weird business because, of course, having a head cast is not the most pleasant thing in the world. But I remember standing there with my head in my hands. It was very strange. So that's what happened. We filmed it, and then they put in the extra scenes, blah blah blah, and it opened and bombed big time. It was just it did marketed it badly, blah 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 blah. So then that was that, and I thought, well, we'll move on, forget about that. And then I can't remember how long ago now, 10 or 15 years ago, this great guy, Russell Charrington, got in touch and said they want to do something called the Cabal. They found some extra footage. They want to make something called the Cabal Cat, which they did. And then we went to various launches of that around the country. And fans kept popping out, and more fans kept popping out. And then finally, after that, there was the director's cut, which was actually sold for the first time in Belfast, which was great. In fact, lots of stuff has been restored, which they've found, and the narrative is much clearer. But they've gone back to the original ending for last season. The sequels weren't going to happen, and I get beheaded. So there we are.
Well, what a surprise for you when you sit down to watch the film.
But I mean, I remember the whole thing. It's a very weird business because, of course, having a head cast is not the most pleasant thing in the world. But I remember standing there with my head in my hands. It was very strange.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's such a distinct world as well, isn't it? So the building, the design, the costumes, the makeup, there's no almost it has to succeed, a film like that, doesn't it? Because of the time investment and also the past success of the Hellraiser films. I think maybe, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, it feels like it was a little bit ahead of its time in the sense of mutants and things like that were seen in X-Men in the late 90s, and all of a sudden everybody was obsessed with X-Men style mutations and characters who were and it just became a thing that everybody talked about. But maybe when it was Nightbreed, people were like, what is this? And I do kind of feel like if somebody was asking me to describe it, and I don't know how you describe it, somebody who hadn't seen it, I always think it's kind of like an S&M X-Men.
Yeah. That's great. I think that's fine. Yes, I think it probably is. It's also quite interesting because, it turns the notion of authority and the people in the Midian, where the Nightbreed live, are all former bad people, and the authority figures on the set who are chasing them are all doubly corrupt. And I thought watching it the other night that, Charles Hayde, who plays the chief police officer in it,
and Sharp, people who used to read all the books and then love the television series. It seems to be these you must have a lot of people who know, probably, and this is no offense, but probably know more about the source material than anybody else could do.
Yes. I know. One of the Sharp, but these guys were chosen men. And this amazing chap called Jason Sulkey, who's one of the chosen men, has made a complete living out of it. And he's written a book now about the making of Sharp and all that. That's left, right, and centre. Still celebrating. I mean, Sharp's a huge fan base. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, they still hold up really well. I mean, and very expensive to make, and then again, we probably could afford it unless it was a Netflix nowadays. But they still look good, I think.
Yeah, totally, they do. And I mean, it's not much of a hop, skip, and a jump from Sharp to things like Game of Thrones or even Outlander. Obviously, you were in Outlander. You know, it seems like these days there has to be a fantastical element or something, a little bit of a you know, it can't just be a straight historical piece of action. It has to have something else. But Outlander is a time travel. So it's like I was saying, the voice of time travel. Um,
Yeah, I know.
and that's not a conscious decision, I imagine.
No. And I mean, and that was amazing. That's another really, really happy show to be involved in. And um, to start with, it's kind of like this huge cast. And my wife and I, as characters, were kind of, we were in series 5, 6, and 7. In series 5, I always called it at home. I said, we're going back to do more bystander. It was like we were just kind of part of the scenery, and our storyline developed as time went on. But yeah, it's epic, and Outlander is much bigger everywhere else in the UK. Unfortunately, it's difficult to access in the UK. You have to do it through Amazon Prime and get MGM as well, an extra £5 a month or something. Whereas it's on in the States where it's massive, it's on Netflix, so they can watch it easily.
Right. Yeah, the fandom for that. My wife reads the Outlander books, and she'd read them before the series. I know some people will watch a series and then go back and read the books. Like the amount of Game of Thrones books that were sold once the series kicked off, it suddenly went into absolute overdrive. And I you know, we're talking about the realm and the different thing. Was there a difference in terms of, like you just said, there's a difference in scale with British things, but what other differences did you see from making something like, say, Sharp, which was the 90s, wasn't it? It was the 90s, to making something like Outlander? You know, in terms of, is everything more filmic now? Is everything that's on TV, could it pretty much be a film?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're great. We're good crews on both. But I mean, the scale of Outlander was much bigger, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it was also extraordinary, and they're able now to. They used to say that you couldn't make films in Scotland because of the weather, but now they can shoot in all sorts of bad weather, and it still looks good. And this was suddenly remembered. There's a scene in Outlander where my wife, having been murdered, gets buried the Exodus Day. But it was fine. We thought, can they ever get this in the can? But yes, we did. It's fine.
Right.
Actually, it's all the better for being miserable.
And there's definitely, you know, this isn't on my list of questions, but it just popped in my head when you were talking about voice similarities. You know, we talked about Richard Wilson, and Brian Cox popped into my head as well. And you know, there seems to be a place for the classic Scottish accent with some gravitas, and you know, maybe particularly people who have had, you know, theatre training and you know, have trained their voices. There seems to be a real, like, it's a, I wouldn't say a niche, but it's a desirable voice note to have.
It's a useful thing. I mean, I've been quite lucky because I've actually I'm quite comfortable doing standard English as well as doing Scots. And kind of in a way, it's quite liberating doing Scots.
Yeah.
It's natural, native. But yeah, it's terribly very useful for them.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned about Tom Hardy when we talked about Bronson earlier on, and you know, one thing that he's got in common with classical actors, I suppose, is that he puts so much work into his voice. You know, and like whether from character to character, but I believe he had either the same or someone who had learned from the same vocal coach as Anthony Hopkins. I think that was the story I heard.
he's a really interesting. I mean, we had really interesting conversation. He's very sort of quite serious chap actually. Surprisingly serious, I found. I really enjoyed meeting him and working with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wonder because you don't really see a lot of younger actors who spend that amount of time developing a voice that
Yeah.
tend to use the normal everyday voice, and sometimes sometimes that's a risk. I imagine it is a risk when you're making those choices, and I imagine they're also in conversation with the director, on where you go with that.
Yeah. I mean, it was like I was saying about Bronson, and, no crowd cuts with an East End galaxy. You think to yourself, I don't know, does that sound? Then you just, in your mind, I remember trying out various voices and thinking, no, that'll never do. And actually, when you watch the scene, it's quite a weird sound that comes out. Obviously, it must have been sort of what we wanted.
Yeah, searching for a voice is something I've never really thought about, other than through like impressionists and people who do that for people I know who do that for a living. And strangely enough, when I was a boy, I used to live over the road from Mike Yarwood, and it was something I was absolutely fascinated by him as a person, just in terms of like what he could do. And I guess voice acting, you don't want to do a broad character, necessarily, but like I was just saying about yourself or Tom Hardy or somebody like that, when you're talking with the director, because even like Ben Kingsley doing Sexy Beast and completely going into East End, a bit similar to what you had to do, really, to a certain degree, East End sound in there. That's not something he's just come up with, is it, on the day? That's a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. And I mean, but it's interesting. I mean, like and Poirot, which I know David Suchet didn't have sort of Poirot with him. And you know how he stays in Paris all the time and speaks that.
Right.
I don't do that. I don't do that. But some people have to do that. They feel they have to, otherwise they kind of step out of character.
Yeah.
I'm reflecting. Sorry. Tell me.
No.
Does your wife think that Outlander is fairly faithful to the book? Does she like it?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a strange one, really, because she'll read the books and skip over certain parts that are a little bit too intense. So when it came to watching the first series, it was hard to get over some of the things that would happen to, I can't remember the name of the lead lady, because yeah. So she found that difficult, but once she kind of had the same sort of approach, maybe a bit of a cushion sometimes, then yeah, she really did enjoy it. Because I used to buy those books for her for Christmas when, for quite a long time. So that's definitely her realm of books that she loved.
When I got the job, I was of course sent off for the 3 books that were involved with the part I was going to be playing, and this huge package arrived. I had no idea they were such doorstoppers. I mean, there are 1,000 pages.
Yeah, and a lot of the not necessarily similar to that, but there's the like Hunger Games and those kind of post-apocalyptic ones. I remember buying those years and years ago, and she'll probably hate me for saying this now because it's like a long time ago. But I just remember them all being very big, whether they were Outlander or what's it called, where all of the women are subjugated.
I mean with Elizabeth Moss.
The Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale, yeah, like all of those. I just remember thinking, I don't know if I have the staying power to be able to read books that are like that.
A lot of time viewing films and things.
Yeah. I do. I do. It's a passion for me. In terms of, I did screenwriting at university, and then I went into teaching, and I kind of left that put that creativity into the teaching. And now I'm kind of doing slightly different roles. I'm able to sort of connect with it a little bit more and make short documentaries or interview people. And we're very, as you know, we're very lucky now that we can kind of connect with people a lot easier than we used to be able to. So to be able to say, for example, watch a movie and then reach out to someone and then be gracious enough to talk to me about it is like a dream, such as being able to speak to you. It's wonderful, because, and I'll kind of prove my chops here a little bit, because I really wanted to talk to you about Killer's Moon.
Good God. Right.
Because it had a reputation, and it's a film that's always kind of, it had a reputation. It really unsettled people at the time because of the tone as much as its content.
Do you see that on YouTube? Is it still available?
I think do you know what? It is available. I think it is. I shouldn't say this really, but I think it is free on YouTube to watch. And
that was the first film I ever did. I mean, I was excited about doing it because I remember it had a very limited release, and I had to go to the ABC Mile End, which is, it's only there. The only place you can see it. Anyway, yeah. How was it?
Well, I love. I mean, hands up. I love Norman Warren films and Pete Walker films. That period of time for me is sometimes criminally ignored. In between, people tend to go from Hammer straight through to, more modern ones, and forget about that period of time where people were really keeping the British horror industry going with some very creative and challenging films, like not easy to watch. I don't know what I think about Killer's Moon. Like, it was like, I love it as a time capsule. I think it's a fascinating film. And I'm probably biased. I love films. I mean, that's the sweet spot for me, like 78, 77. So what are your memories of it when you sat down to watch it? Were you like, "Ooh, wow, this is a bit of a wild one"?
I think I was so overwhelmed at seeing myself on the big screen. I didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I must watch it again because I can't remember very much about it. But the guy who was in the scene with me, there was a guy in the scene, an older actor, probably about my age now, who had to have an idiot board. He just couldn't remember the line. Yeah. I must look and see. I beg you, God bless him, whatever happened to him.
It is a kind of a film that does keep coming up in conversation with people, because I think it kind of crosses a few people's, like, I think Faye Weldon wrote this original script, and and there's a really strange link with and with her being a feminist, kind of. It's an interesting film for, but I like, some people go, "Oh, it's the worst film I made," and kind of, some of the actors from what I've read, and then some of them are just like, "Well, this was a wild film that I stand behind." I guess sensibilities are different now as well, so but that doesn't, I always think it's important to just look at it from when it was actually out and made.
I think I'm really, really sort of touched and pleased that you even know what it is. That's great.
I'm glad. It's funny because it's a funny concept, really, and it's like a busload of school children or schoolgirls, and then mental patients, and it feels like it could be a Pete Walker film, like House of Whipcord or something like that. Which is right up my street. So I was going to ask you about that as well, because obviously I have there isn't really, other than we've talked about time travel, and there's definitely a big chunk of time travel. Is there a favorite genre, like or thing that you really want to get, like type of film or project that you really love getting your teeth into?
Um, well, I quite like. I mean, I like the scale of that I was asked to do in. I think it's challenging to ask. It's kind of Outlander and Sharp have a sort of theatricality, but you have to be real as well. You know, there's a lot of talk about screenacting be very different, and I think they're not really. Because I mean, as long as it's truthful, it doesn't. It reads. But I would love to be able to. I'd love a kind of nice Bill Nye part where you can just be you and in a kind of real modern
Yes.
situation. You know what I mean? Just, just,
He definitely has the advantage of being able to do that in things, doesn't he? Kind of, it's a Bill Nye part. Yeah, I think George Clooney has that as well, doesn't he? Really, George Clooney is George Clooney and everything.
yeah. Although I enjoyed whatever it was called recently, but doing a Clooney thing about the Hollywood star. What was it called? Did you see it on TV?
Oh, yeah, with Adam Sandler. I can't think of the. Yeah, I haven't seen it. No, I'll check. I'll check that one out for sure. And now I'm going to go into some weird territories here, but as a child of the '80s, you know, Sunday night TV were massively influential to me, and you got to be on Lovejoy with Ian McShane, and you got to be on Boon, which I think used to be Sunday night. Or now I'm thinking about it, and you got to be on Boon with Michael Elphick and Neil Morrissey as well. What was it about that era where we just took somebody's surname, imbibed an actor with lots of personality, and people in their millions watched it? What was it like being part of those long? Because people are still talking about them now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, but they were very much like I was describing about the jobs you got because you just went and met the director and said you want to do it. You know, when there were less people kind of in competition for time. But I remember Boone quite distinctly being in Nottingham or something, being very, 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 very good atmosphere, nice to do, blah, blah. He just popped in and out, and it was, I don't know why, I mean, as you said, the character, Michael Elphick was really kind of charismatic, I suppose, and held it all together. Yeah. Lovejoy, Lovejoy, yeah, I'm having a terrible flashback here thing. Dudley Sutton was a great pleasure on Lovejoy.
Yeah, what a great actor, and what a brave actor he was as well. There was a film that was re-released recently with Dudley Sutton in it. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I've watched it as well, and it's just gone completely out of my head. Where
The Leather Boys.
The Leather Boys, thank you. Yes, and I was just thinking, what you know, just thinking of the time that was made. It's wild that was. And he's so good.
He is very, very good. It's kind of clunky, but it's very, very watchable.
Yeah. It's funny because these kind of coming of age film. I mean, that particular one is a very brave choice, but like I rewatched recently the Robin Asquith Cool It Carol, and I was like, this film, what is it like? They just do not get made now, where it's just about two local yokels who go off to the big smoke of London and get in trouble, and it's not one genre, or it's just mad, really.
I know, and I mean, basically all kind of on the search for a bit of skirt, as you call it in those days. There's been terrible Robin Asquith type things.
Yeah, they're like there'd just be, the story, it just cheeky and silly, but also like a lot of those films were made very much. A lot of money were put into them by big studios, and I remember reading about Star Wars and Confessions films being on next door to each other and things like that. There's a kind of a strange incongruous. Like, and I suppose, did you ever find that if you were with, like, just thinking about things next door to each other. There was always a big competition between BBC shows, ITV shows. You were on both. You've been on, like I say, Lovejoy was on BBC, Boon was on there were other things. Albion Market was one that I remember being promoted heavily. Did you ever notice any sort of tribalism between different things that were going to be on different stations?
But I think there was a smaller pool of actors who tended to crop up in things. It's a bit like if you look at lots of those movies on Talking Pictures TV, it's like there was a repertory of actors. You know, that, oh my God, there she is again, you know, kills the animal. There was a kind of little group of people who worked all the time in movies. And but now the pool is so much greater. I think
True.
Supporting that, particularly. Yeah.
That's interesting. So it wasn't like you work on that channel, you'll never work in this town again. You've never had any you won't work in this town again kind of conversations. Well, that's good to hear in a way. You don't, because when you're looking, just a young child looking in the Radio Times and looking at ratings and things like that, you think it's this big cutthroat thing where certain people make a choice and that's it. Their careers are, defined by it. Speaking of this is going to be the deepest cut really, because I used to get the Look In magazine, which was funded by ITV when I was a kid, and it was it'd have all kinds of things in it like comic strips and posters of the A-Team and all this kind of thing. But when Albion Market was started out, and obviously it didn't last very long, they were really heavily promoting it to be the EastEnders of ITV. It's going to be massive. I remember it won awards, which was a bit sketchy because it won little awards before it had really got going. And I thought, this is in the TV Times. This seems a bit sketchy. But it didn't make it. It didn't continue. It didn't carry on from, say, Crossroads and have that. But do you remember much about working on Albion Market? Because I feel like it's a moment in history of television history people don't really talk about or even mention it anymore.
I don't remember very much about it, except I remember I wasn't very comfortable with what I was doing in it. And I think I can't remember where it was meant to be from, but there was a case where I didn't feel I hit the right kind of accent or anything. I remember I thought it was a jewelry piece. I can't remember anything much about it. But
yeah, because it was supposed to be in Salford, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. No, I mean, it's got a blank, my lord, I'm afraid.
Well, I think most people probably would say the same, and because I've they like a bit like El Dorado maybe, or maybe not even El Dorado. People remember where there's this period of time where we're trying to go. Here's this cast of new people. You're going to love them. It's the new Bet Lynch, the new Dirty Den, and then it just doesn't. Like you said before, it just sometimes things stick and sometimes they don't. It's just a strange one for me because it was like it did 100 episodes.
It is.
Yeah. And yet no one ever mentions it. And I guess people just thought, well, we've got a Coronation Street and we've got a market in EastEnders.
Yeah.
Why do we? Yeah, I don't know why it didn't.
But if you'd have thought Emmerdale would turn into what that's turned into too, I mean,
true. Yeah. Because Emmerdale Farm and Emmerdale are very different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like about there's a trouble with the drainage in the top field or whatever. It's
I've never had to make that kind of decision, but you often wonder to yourself, if you were in something like that and your character looked like it was going to be a permanent character, would you be happy to commit the rest of your life to saying that one thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like a bit of variety, honestly.
Yeah, like as much as it's like anything else. I suppose it's a bit like me staying at the same school forever. There's definitely positives to that, and then there's getting out and kind of trying different things and meeting different people. It's a similar thing, isn't it? I imagine but then it's not a choice that many people have to make. The Bill Roaches of this world and people like that who have been in it decades and decades and decades. That's not a choice many actors have to make, really, is it?
Yeah, very rich.
Yeah,
You,
you could do it in your sleep.
you were obviously very screen struck as a boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I lived not far from Granada Studios, and my school used to take us on trips to the old Granada Studios. For any reason, we had to go on a school trip. It was always to the Granada Studios tour. Um, and I mean, this was going back a while. One of the exhibits was a thing called the internet. And they were like, we're going to show you this. It's a big ball, and you track the ball and you click on it, and it goes, like, you're going to show us what, one day you'll all be able to go on the internet. So it must have been early 90s, late 80s. But they used to take us there all the time, and I think that's probably what sparked my interest in it. And getting looking and just poring over Empire magazines and Barry Norman on TV and all that kind of stuff. What was your kind of, gave you the acting bug? Because I've never had the acting bug, but
Well, I'm very, very typical kid. I mean, that I at the school I went to, there was a very I went to the same school from 5 to 18 in Glasgow, and there was a prep school and then a senior school. It was a day school, and Miss Lilburn was the teacher's name, and we did puppets, and we did first of all 1 year clock puppets, and then the next year papier-mâché puppets. And I was very keen on that, and persuaded my parents to give me a puppet theatre. So I did kind of puppet shows, and also there was the big emphasis on drama, and in the senior school, it was a great mixture of disciplines. But the Shakespeare, something called the Globe Players, the Shakespeare play every year, and a pantomime every Christmas. So it was kind of like two different disciplines. And by the time I was 18, I'd already played, Macbeth and Richard III and all sorts of things. So I was completely stage struck. And
wow.
And I used to get Picture Goer magazine, film magazine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and picture show and anything to do with. And I loved going to cinema. And I was just mad about it.
Oh, that's lovely. And it's like I've spoken to people who used to get Starburst magazine way back, and even comedians who can say that they were influenced by reading the Beano or the Dandy and things like that. Like, I would say, it's amazing, isn't it? The kind of the influences we have, but usually, certainly up until, I would say, until print media isn't, like magazines, people don't read them as much now, but what used to come through your letterbox was like a window to another world.
Oh, I mean, oh my God, it's Wednesday. I'll get my copy of, Picture Goer today.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
ABC Film Review, I remember as well.
Yeah, and even in the 80s, going to the video shop, the free magazines that come, and you've got your list of all the films that are like previews and what's, and you're like, wow, I'm gonna, if that's in my video shop, I'm gonna go and get that. I'm gonna go and rent that one out. It makes it an event, and I think that's something maybe that is lost now, isn't it? Really, information is very easy to get, but you're not poring over the same thing that you've managed to find, and it's yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely feeling, and maybe something that a lot of collectors probably are still chasing, I imagine.
Yeah, those people, the guy talking pictures must be completely, his knowledge is absolutely extraordinary. I keep hoping my first big telly thing was a thing called Kate with Phyllis Talbot as an agony hour. And it was the first thing Penelope Keith really made her name in. She played her rather a surrogate assistant, Wanda, I think it was called. Anyway, it was and I keep hoping Talking Pictures might unearth it, because they did do justice to Margaret Lockwood.
Yeah, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? It's great when they discover these things.
I know. They're quite interesting. I would never be cast in this now, because I was in a wheelchair because I'd had an accident in the Ken Gordons, I remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because Kate, I'm just looking up Kate now. Like you say, Penelope Keith was in it as well. So there'd be a lot of people interested in seeing a young Penelope Keith because.
And there were lots of very good
Yeah.
guest stars, well-known people. In it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one. Maybe I'll email them and I'll see what they can do. See if they have it.
That'd be brilliant. I'd love that. I recently found an episode of Crown Court that I was in.
Oh yeah.
Popped up, and I was actually in I have no recollection of it. Actually, in a scene with Mr. Both. We were both in it.
Wow. I mean, that was an interesting concept that lasted a very long time. And I get it. And it doesn't get shown very much. It does get shown on Talking Pictures TV, which I think another, feather in the cap that they do find shows that people are absolutely crying out to rewatch that are just not getting shown anywhere. I've just got a question that I was thinking about. We've talked about this history going all the way from things like Kate and Lovejoy and all the way to Nightbreed and now Harry Potter. But I was thinking about this might be just a fanboy question, and you have to excuse me with this, but walking onto the set of something like Patriot Games, does that feel different than walking onto the set of, say, Albion Market or Boon or something? Like, do you know you're in a movie, like an American movie kind of thing?
Oh yes, of course you do. And you think to yourself, I was deeply in awe of Harrison Ford, who turned out to be a huge laugh. He was great fun.
Right.
But I mean, that I think it was on it for 2 days, which we did the scene for 2 days, that unheard of on TV. And he was amazing because he used to go and watch the scene after the shot. He'd go and watch it on the monitor. And I remember him saying to me, would you just put more weight on your right foot and on the ball of your right foot to slide it for my eye line? And he understood the technique in that detail. It was absolutely awesome. And I said to him, can I have a photograph taken with him? And he was, of course you can. So I've got a very treasured photograph near Harrison Ford on set. But lots of those big people in the film world are really genuinely good people, nice people.
It's a massive, I guess it's a bit of a silly question, really, because when you have to look at the cast to know it's a massive film. People who even went on and did even more, whether it was Samuel L. Jackson's in it and Thora Birch, Patrick Bergen, but Sean Bean again. So you got to connect with Sean Bean in that film, who plays a character called Sean, which is a strange one.
Yeah, that's shown a lot in TV shows. Amazing.
Yeah. It's a proper blockbuster that, again, we talk a little bit about. It wouldn't get made as much now because it's not a franchise. It's not say it's not Scream or it's not a Marvel film, and it will cost quite a lot of money to make. But people do like these thrillers, these where you have to think. And the Tom Clancy style films, all people do enjoy those. I guess The Night Manager proved that as well, that people really enjoy seeing it still, but maybe more on TV now, I suppose, than in the cinema.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend and said to her about we were talking about watching on TV and stuff. There is so much. I've got a list as long as my arm of things I want to watch on TV. But I love the cinema, and I can't bear the fact that cinema has to, the product is all on the TV screen.
Yeah, no, I think it's the same. It's so important saving local cinemas. There are cinemas I see sometimes that are in rack and ruin, and I really think I need to go and just make an effort and go and watch anything just to support these wonderful places. And there's a local cinema to me that shut down and has reopened in Bowness, the Royalty, which is my favourite little cinema, and it's just a gorgeous little cinema, and I'm just so happy that it's open again. It's an event. It's a lovely feeling. It's special, and plus you put your phone down and you put your life on pause, and you're in that movie. And
Right.
I guess that's a good link to Patriot Games. That's the kind of movie you'd go and watch in the cinema, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, completely.
Do you have like a movie that you return to that you absolutely love, that you recommend? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like something that you would say to people, oh, you need to go and check this out. It doesn't have to be any era.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot to do with the writing of things, but I do think one of my all-time favorites, because of being in the business and everything, is All About Eve. I think it's absolutely, I could watch it over and over and over again. It's a brilliant screenplay. It's brilliantly acted. And when I was a boy, my favorite actress was Liz Johns. And I loved both those films, picture screen actually, where she's a mermaid. And I watched one of those again not so long since. It just captured my youthfulness somehow.
Oh, it's magical, isn't it? Magical.
Yeah. But I mean, it is the writing. I saw a film recently, kind of a British film. I thought that, and the writing was so bad.
And that's why we return to them. It's why some things do find their audience a bit later, because there's some depth to it. It bears repeated viewings as well. Or it's a bit like a good book, isn't it? When you know you've got a good book when you've read it more than once.
I know.
Well, Hugh, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure talking to you. I could speak to you forever about your career, and I feel like I've only just touched on it. Like I said in the intro, there's like 117 at the last count credits, and I just wish you all the best and success with all the Harry Potter projects, all the recent projects, and it's been. I hope you've had a good time, and I really do appreciate your time.
You've been a delight to chat to. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
Is there something coming up that you want people to point people towards? The Harry Potter books, audiobooks, they're all out now, or
no, that's all done and dusted. No, there's another. No, there's still tape out there at the moment. Let's hope it comes off. But that's
right.
There was one recently, I have to say, that really nice part, not a big project, an American thing. It was going to be shot in Vancouver. And it took 3 months before they decided they didn't want me.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And they've now got a thing called Tagman, which you can check into, which tells you the status of a farm. And they kept getting a message saying, this is going to take a long time, we've still not decided, blah, 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 blah. 3 months.
Oh, frustrating. Really frustrating. Yeah.
So, I'm traveling hopefully, as I've done for most of my career. And the most important thing is I keep telling young actors is you must never be bitter, because it's all a game of chance.
Well, that's one of the things that's been the most refreshing when we've talked today, and I've got that from you, is that passion and love, and that kind of approach to it, like you say, of play. Like we come back right to the beginning, that seeing it as play, and I don't even get a hint of any bitterness, and mainly because wow, what amazing projects you've been in. It must it's I'm probably gonna, if I'm gonna watch something, I probably will go, because it's been a while, I probably will go and watch Patriot Games this evening.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Good.
I'll maybe even visit Uncle Jack in Bronson and see how he's getting on.
Right. Hardly over the top at all. Anyway.
Oh, thank you so much. Lovely to speak to you.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very, very much.